maybe let's go ahead and hop right in to the first question type. The first one we have here, of course, is a multiple choice type of question. So, Heather, when you think about that type of a question, what are you thinking about? What are the key ideas there?
Okay, so I think this is probably the most common, the most old school type of question you see, a multiple choice question. Ask you a question, it gives you a bunch of answers, and you choose the right one.
I think I think that makes a ton of sense. Should we walk through this first one here?
Yeah, that would be great. So would you like me to read this?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, so if everyone can see the screen, read along with me. An architect who recently started her own firm gets a small home renovation. She sends a draft of a contract to the client, but never receives a finalized version. After 2 months of producing drawings, the architect submits them for permit. While the drawings are in permitting, the architect invoices the client for payment. The client goes silent and does not send payment to the architect. What courses of actions are available to the architect to receive payment? So I think the first thing that I would do here is make sure that I read the entire question. Make sure that I read what the question is asking and not projecting something that I thinking of that I did at my job or thinking of that I read a scenario in a textbook at school. So make sure that I actually understand that question first. Now, before I even look at the available answers, I want to see if I can answer that question in my mind without being jaded one way or the other. So now that I've done that, and I kind of have an idea what I'm thinking right now, but I'm still not very sure. So what I want to start doing is I want to start eliminating wrong answers. So now I'm going to actually look at the answers available to me. So the first one, A, says nothing. Architect never executed an agreement. I have no leg to stand on. Well, that actually sounds pretty plausible. I'm going to put that in the maybe column. Next one says the architect can put a lien on the client's home. Well, that sounds a little odd to me because every time I think of lien, I think of payments and construction times. And I also have read several times and heard several times that liens are dealing with a GC and payment at the end of the project. So that just sounds a little iffy to me. Next one is the architect can withdraw the permit drawings from the city. Well, that just doesn't sound very professional. Why would I give someone something and then take it back? And then the next one says the architect should issue a formal certificate of payment. Now, similar to option B, certificate of payment has something to do with construction administration during a project, not during payment during the design phase or the permitting phase. So that also doesn't sit too well. So based on my reaction to what I read through, the only one that really fit the bill was A. So Mark, I think I'm going to go with A on this one.
Yeah, I think that makes sense here. And as you're going through these options, what I'm realizing, or I think the comment to make here, is that there's a couple of things that you're mentioning. So in addition to, I love the idea of trying to answer the question before reviewing the answers, because that kind of keeps you honest if you think about it. Because one of the key things that they're doing in these questions is they're trying to distract you. In fact, that's actually one of the names of the options that they give you. They're actually technically called distractors. And so it's a really smart idea, I think, like you just said, to first just try to answer the question without reviewing the answers, because it will help you stay focused perhaps on what the real answer is, and maybe you won't be as easily distracted. I think the second thing to maybe add here is that a lot of times, I suppose, really reading, like you mentioned, the first thing, really read the question. The answer is essentially in that question, and sometimes it's in the detail of the question. So, of course, in this one, this is a little detail, but never receives the finalized version. I mean, maybe Heather, you'd agree with me that perhaps that's the key little detail there that really sets up the answer. Do you have any comments, I guess, around those two things about sort of the distractors as well as really getting into the detail of the question?
I think absolutely to both of them. The distractors really come in the second part of the question, where you're beginning to look at the available questions. NCARB's not trying to trick you, but they are making sure that you're paying attention. And then they're going to give you all of the information that you need in that item stem and that question at the very beginning. And like you mentioned, they gave you exactly what you needed to know. Never receives a finalized version. They're telling you right now you don't have a contract. So what can you do?
Yep.
You can't do much. You don't really have a leg to stand on.
Yep. And I think, and also, I mean, that's just the key, is that sometimes you read these fast and you miss the detail. So just sort of reading them carefully. So I suppose that's the one we'll add here at the top. Read the question carefully, and then look for details. These are sort of related together here. Okay, that's great. Well, thank you for that one. Heather, is there anything else you want to add here to the multiple choice sort of approach?
Just real quickly, and this can go for any of them, as we were talking about making sure that you read it carefully. A lot of people like to use their pencils and just tap on every single word as you go through, just so you make sure that you're reading every word and not missing a not, or throwing in a negative or something that's not there.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think, as you were saying that, I was also remembering about the distractors. One of the key things about the other options is that usually, I mean, they're going to be plausible. So, and maybe that again sort of leads itself to this bit about trying to answer the question before reviewing it, because those distractors are oftentimes, you kind of read them, they're going to kind of seem plausible. So trying to answer that question before you review the answers seems like a good approach. And of course, once you've done that, you're looking at probably some basic ideas around eliminating options in order to kind of narrow the field here.